Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
I hate to tap myself on the back, but you're going to see it in the Sports Office blog. I actually called it, but I thought the Denver Nuggets were going to lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 1, and they end up doing so 106-99. It wasn't an overall good game at all by the Nuggets. Slow start. There's plenty to dive into. I think you need to get the ball to MPJ a lot more, but we do prepare tonight for Game 2 as Minnesota is still in town. And to talk about it on a Marilat Monday, because we didn't have it last week, we have James Marilat. How are you?
Hi, Rachel. I'm great. How are you?
You're good. Even after the Nuggets lost on Saturday night?
Well, if you'd have talked to me yesterday,
you're not panicking like the rest
maybe
of the
I would have been not as good. But today I'm fine. It's on to Game 2. Am I panicking? Yeah, my panic meter's at like an 8.5.
Is it really?
I mean, tonight's a must win.
Oh, 100%.
If they lose tonight and go in an 0-2 hole with both those games being at home,
agreed,
they're effectively done. I don't know that they're beating that team 4 out of 5 times with 3 of those games in Minnesota.
Agreed.
So it's a must win. Even it up tonight. Then you got all week to just figure out what do we want to do come next weekend, because there's this weird gap, which is fine, and try to steal one and get home court back. But first things first, you got to take care of business tonight. You got to get a win tonight, and they got to play a lot better if that's going to happen.
Yep. Number one, first thing that needs to change, the slow starts. It was okay against the Lakers. You can't have them anymore. 4 points in 6 minutes to start the game. Unacceptable.
Well, yeah, and to call that a slow start is just an understatement.
I know.
I mean, it was 18-4.
Yeah.
Somehow, though, they were ahead at the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
So I think people kind of overlook that slow start, but the energy you had to take to dig out of that hole.
Yep.
When you start looking at the second half and the 66 points they gave up, and they just seemed like a team, especially late when they couldn't execute, that just maybe was a little bit out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you had to dig out of an 18-4 hole.
Yep.
In the first quarter. So, yeah, I think it's a team that kind of got full of themselves a little bit of like, we can come back against anybody. This ain't the Lakers. The Timberwolves have guys on that team that can close in the fourth quarter versus LA. So can't put yourself in that position.
And Minnesota is the best third quarter team in the league.
Well, and the Nuggets just seem to historically struggle
coming out
of the locker room. So, bad starts, so bad in the first quarter.
Yep.
They tend to not be very good in the third quarter. It's like that, Michael Malone needs to change his message, whatever it is, because that can't happen. I expect him tonight, knowing how desperate they're going to have to be, that they come out tonight. And I don't think it's going to be 18-4 the other way around, but I think you're going to see a very hot start from Denver.
Agreed. And one of the things I noticed too was for this team, usually when you have a bad game, it's kind of like whatever, anybody will talk in the locker room. Reggie Jackson declined talking in the locker room. Jamal Murray declined talking in the locker room. KCP declined talking in the locker room. A ton of players after the game were not willing to talk. And I think it was because they were a little shell-shocked of, oh my gosh, this team actually can beat us if we don't level up our game.
Well, okay, fine. But listen, if you want everybody to come talk to you when you win, you got to stand there and answer the questions when you lose.
Yeah.
And to me, that was a lot of the guys, especially KCP and Jamal. Listen, they got completely outplayed by Anthony Edwards.
KCP's still hurt.
Could not slow him down. Those two guys, I think, are both banged up.
Yep.
The Nuggets have basically no depth. Their bench played better the other night than they did in the Lakers series, but they don't have any depth. So it's all kind of starting to catch up to them. Last year in the postseason, they hit nothing but green lights.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to take away from the championship. It was awesome. It's a great accomplishment. But they played an 8, a
Easy.
4, a 7, and an 8.
Yep.
Right? They had no injuries.
Yep.
Michael Malone could go with the same rotation all the time. They had home court in every series. They held serve the first 2 games in every series, except for the NBA Finals when they lost Game 2 to Miami. They never trailed.
Yeah.
Right? They're in a very unfamiliar position right now.
Yes.
Where they're trailing in a series.
First time since
they
2022.
only had 2 real pressure-packed games last year.
Yep.
Game 5 here against Phoenix.
Yep.
Right? It was 2-2 at that point. You lose that game, you got to go down to Phoenix for Game 6. Who knows? And Game 3 in Miami.
Yep.
This is I think even a bigger position, because chance to fall down 2 games in a series. Yeah, that'd be trouble.
It was scary. And it wasn't like, Jamal didn't shoot well, but everybody else seemed to be shooting well. But I do think that Jokic has to play a lot smarter, and he needs to be less
less unselfish, right? Like you see Jokic, and this is what he does all the time, where he's really good about getting everybody else the ball. But if Jamal's not making shots, I'm sorry, we got to stop giving him to him. And I know everybody's like, well, eventually he'll get hot. Yeah, but if MPJ is hot the whole time, why aren't we giving MPJ the ball?
I'm with you. So 2 things. One, let's start with the second part.
Yeah,
I'm with you on MPJ, right?
It's
and
working.
If last year, if Michael Porter Jr. would have had a 6-game stretch like Jamal Murray's had,
Yeah.
and I know it's going to sound funny because he hit 2 game-winning shots in that, but even in those games, he didn't play particularly well. Michael Porter Jr. would have found himself on the bench.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a double standard going on here. They need to run more things for MPJ. He should be the second option in this offense.
I agree.
Jokic is one, obviously. He did take 25 shots.
Take 40.
He does. I think, he needs to be the number one option, which is him making himself the number one option.
Yep.
And then it needs to be MPJ. I think you got to look up at Michael Porter Jr. He was in the first half. He was kind of the guy that got him back into it.
Yep.
A little bit of a disappearing act in the second half. He and a lot of other people, but Michael Malone needs to run some plays for him and make sure he's getting his shots and getting his looks.
One of the big things that came out earlier is Rudy Gobert may not play tonight. He's questionable for personal reasons. People are saying that his girlfriend or wife, I'm not exactly sure, is expecting a child. So not going to play tonight. Maybe. How does that play into your overall thoughts in game 2?
Oh, that'd be a big benefit for the Nuggets. Minnesota out-rebounded Denver. I think it was by 8 or 9. They outscored them in the paint by 10.
Yep.
Gobert just affects a lot of shots. He's a 4-time defensive player of the year. So if he's not on the floor, that's going to make a big impact. And there was just this, the size discrepancy. The Nuggets just don't have a ton of depth in terms of size. They got Jokic, and then it's Aaron Gordon, who's not like he's a traditional center or anything.
Yep.
They got nobody coming off the bench. Like, do you play DeAndre Jordan some minutes? Do you try and get Zeke Naji some minutes, like just to get a little bit more size on the floor? Well, if Rudy Gobert can't play, it's less of a factor.
Yeah.
But that would be huge. That would be huge.
I'm always curious because I think as a woman, I have a different opinion on this. You see people on Twitter who are like, he should absolutely play. It's game 2. Like, this is a must win. And then there's also the human side of things of like, well, if he's welcoming a child, I'm always curious, where do you sit?
If it was me, I would play.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I've been in the room.
I've been in the room 3 times.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievable experience. But it's a little different for me. It's a little bit different with an NBA playoff game. Like if this was a game 7, it's like, you got to play.
Oh yeah.
It's game 2. You're up 1-0. It's a less important game. Like, but when this comes up with NFL games, it's like you have 17 work days a year. Like you can't miss one. You can't miss 1/17th of your job.
Technically,
it's too important.
But
that's just my opinion. If Rudy Gobert decides to not play tonight because he wants to be there, more power to him. Yeah. I would show up and play.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always thought that this was such an interesting conversation because again, I have the female side of things where I'm like, a baby, like it's a child that's going to be there.
The first
remember
one,
for the rest of your life.
Number 2 and number 3, I was like, all right.
Same thing.
I've been here before, but I've had 3. I haven't had, but I have 3 sons. I missed 1 day of work total. 2 were born on weekends. So that helped me.
Different people.
But yeah, I would play.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't begrudge anybody. I've softened my stance. I used to be very hardcore about this, but I think it was because it was more NFL based. You only have 17 work days. Come on. Show up.
They have plenty of others, but I get your point. I'm curious. Let us know in the comments.
If you miss practice on a Wednesday, nobody cares.
That's true. Nobody cares.
So.
But your fantasy football owners definitely care if you miss Sunday. All right, though, let's go into number 2, I believe, for things that need to change. I guess we kind of talked about it a little bit, but in my mind, it's getting MPJ the ball more. Like, I think this is something they're missing so bad. They want Jamal to be so good, but I'm sorry, Jamal didn't have a shot made until the 3rd quarter. Like, that's not acceptable from your number 2 guy. He's got to be able to make stuff. And with MPJ making it, my emphasis right there is to pound that. Give it to MPJ. He's draining threes left and right. Like, continue to feed him.
Yeah. No,
I know we talked about it, but it's frustrating.
If you're looking for somebody to be more selfish, you talked about Jokic, and okay, I would be fine with that. I think MPJ needs to be more selfish. I think somebody who needs to be less selfish is Jamal Murray.
Yep.
And again, really good player, hit some big time shots. I can make the argument that both of his game-winning shots were terrible possessions.
Yeah.
You have the MVP on the floor, and he didn't touch the ball on
Yep.
either possession.
Yet they gave it to Jamal.
Because
Told him to run it.
Jamal just didn't give the ball up.
Yeah.
I mean, he sort of Will Bartoned it, right? But he made the shot, so nobody says anything about it. He needs to be a little bit more of a traditional point guard and get people involved and distribute it and realize my teammate is hot tonight. I'm not.
Yeah.
And I got to get Michael Porter Jr. the ball. Jokic, the way the Nuggets plays, he's like the point center as well. So it's those two guys. Jamal and Jokic need to make sure if MPJ's got a hot hand again tonight, make sure you're feeding him the basketball.
It was funny because on Friday, Joey talked a lot about Reggie Jackson. I was like, Reggie Jackson, whatever. Played great. He got them back in the game a little bit. They sat Jamal finally. But you got to give him his roses, actually. When people have dogged on Reggie Jackson a little bit. You got to give him his roses after
he played
game one.
fine. He played fine.
I mean,
was he Bruce Brown?
No, but
that's why people dog on him because he's the guy that's supposed to fill that role.
That's not his fault.
No, but that's the role he's trying to fill.
They didn't keep Bruce Brown.
That's the role he's trying to fill, and he doesn't.
That's not fair.
He's not Bruce Brown.
That's not fair, though. The Nuggets did not keep Bruce Brown. It's the same things with the Avs didn't keep Codger.
But he's getting the Bruce Brown minutes, is what I'm saying. So he's not producing like Bruce Brown did.
Also,
they don't have this. They don't have that guy that can do it.
Some of the lineups, I was so confused with what they were rolling with. Like P. Watt was out there, Christian Brown, Reggie, and then it was like Aaron Gordon, and I'm trying to think who else, or Justin Holiday, and I'm like, where the heck is this lineup?
Well, and you
like,
look
what
at
are we
it too,
doing?
and you're like, who's gonna score?
I know,
right? Like
Reggie Jackson, buddy.
Yeah,
carried the team.
Yeah. So, and Michael Malone he's got a challenge because he doesn't have a great bench.
No.
He's got to try and piece it together. I thought against the Lakers, he did a good job of that. I thought the other night, the formulas that he was trying just didn't work.
Yep.
But this is a team that if their 5 starters don't play well, they're in trouble. Jamal didn't shoot well.
Yep.
Aaron Gordon was kind of a non-factor. What was he, 4 for 7? Like he just was kind of invisible.
Defensively, though, I think that people aren't giving him enough credit. Like it was intense. Being down there watching actually like up close that basketball game, that was an intense game.
Well, and then he's the guy that they tend to put on the other team's best scorer, right? Because he can play big, he can play outside.
Yep.
So if you put him on Anthony Edwards to try and slow him down, well, then you get the fact that you don't have a lot of size really becomes a factor because then Rudy's out there, assuming he plays.
Yep.
Cat is out there. Like, well, who's guarding them? That's where if you had another big, if DeAndre Jordan was serviceable, the Nuggets could combat the big lineup with the big lineup and put Aaron Gordon on Anthony Edwards. I just don't know that Michael Malone trusts anybody on his bench, any of the bigs on his bench to be able to have that flexibility.
There was I think it was BetMGM who tweeted it out, and it was like, if you had to pick a guy to start for you for the next 5 years, are you going Nikola Jokic or Anthony Edwards? And it was one of those things where I was like, well, this is kind of unfair. Like Jokic is in his prime, but he's going to be on his way out sooner or later. Yeah. Anthony Edwards is coming into his prime, which is scary. Get ready, everybody, because he's a stud. But I was like, this is kind of an unfair question. It made me realize, I was like, holy crap, like Jokic is in his prime right now, and we're on the way out.
Yeah. I mean, I would take the guy that's going to win his 3rd MVP, but I'd have to think about it.
No, I did.
You can make an argument Anthony Edwards is the best player in the league
right now.
And, he plays in Minnesota. They don't get a ton of attention.
Yep.
But that guy,
they're just like the Nuggets.
And we saw it in game 1. Like that guy is unstoppable at times. And he also has that killer instinct. Like, and he's not in this category, but the Kobe, Jordan just kind of look to him of like, oh, he's taking over and you're not going to stop him. I mean, he just hit some big shots in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
That guy he's trouble. They got to figure out some way to slow him down.
And I think actually that's going to be my third point of what needs to change in game 2. The Nuggets need to control the pace. The Timberwolves controlled it in game 1. The Nuggets need to get them to run a lot more. You have the advantage. You are at altitude. Yes, they've had a few more days to adjust to it at this point, but when you're still running up and down that court, if you got to do it quickly, you're going to get tired. We saw Anthony Edwards kind of cool off in the second, but that's because he was a little bit winded, right? They exerted so much energy in the first quarter.
Yeah. I just think that makes me a little bit nervous considering the Nuggets gave up 66 points in the second half and allowed Minnesota to shoot 71%. So if you get in a track meet up and down,
you can't win any game like that though.
No, defensively, they were just abysmal in the second half.
Yeah.
And part of that is, hey, the other team's making shots, but still they got to be much, much better than that.
Yep.
So it's a slow start. They got to be better defensively. And, Jamal Murray needs to find his shooting touch.
It's not just been one game. It's been a lot of games. excited because I just got some news. I was a little worried
Okay. All right.
about, now this is switching to the Avs. Jared Bednar says Alexander Georgiev's practice absence was a maintenance day. So they were saying he was not out on the ice, which made me panic a little bit, obviously, because they traveled out, or they're getting ready to travel out to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
This is good news for Avs fans.
What a difference 2 weeks makes, right? Like 2 weeks ago, tomorrow, Will Peterson is writing his note. He should never step on the ice again in an Avs uniform. And now it's like, oh my gosh, if he doesn't play, what are they going to do? He was not good in game 1, obviously, against Winnipeg.
Figured it out.
He was really good, borderline great in the other 4 games. They need him if they're going to beat Dallas and if they're going to continue the run here. So that is definitely good news.
Okay. Game 7, NBA or NHL, which one's better?
Hockey.
I agree. It's so
the fact
much
that
better.
it can end at any second.
Oh my gosh.
Is pretty amazing.
And it is just
game 7 overtime. If it's a game 7, like I remember the Avs lost to the Red Wings one year 7-0 in a game 7. That wasn't any fun.
Yeah.
Overtime game 7, the series and your season could end on any possession, any shot. It's unlike anything else in sports.
It is so much fun.
Boston and Toronto
intense.
Was ridiculous.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
I didn't get to see it.
Just being into, and I don't really care who wins, right? It's not even in the Western Conference, other than it's fun to root against Boston all the time. And seeing them lose again in the first round would have been so great. But just the intensity of that, like you're on the edge of your seat, like your palms start sweating. Like it is so good. It's so good.
I like have this argument all the time. People are like NBA, and I'm like, no. I'll give NBA gets their roses for a lot of other things, but game 7 hockey, nothing is better.
It's incredible. Although if the Nuggets are hosting the Timberwolves, game 7, I think that's like the 19th. I think it's on
could be the same day,
Sunday the 19th. That will be stressful.
Oh yeah, but we have feelers in this, right? Like if it's any other game 7 for any other teams, you're kind of like, whatever, I'll watch the hockey game over. But there's feelers in these 2 games, and they could be on the exact same day. I have a feeling this Dallas Avs series is going to go 7-2.
Well, if you just watch this weekend, right? Like, or just yesterday, Dallas and Vegas was much more interesting to me than Orlando and Cleveland.
Agreed.
Yeah, part of that's who's involved in the game. The Golden Knights and the Stars, the winner when the Avs were going to get. So we had a little bit of a vested interest, whereas it's Donovan Mitchell and Benchero and a bunch of guys you've never heard of.
Yeah.
But yeah, just yesterday, that I think that answers your question. The hockey game was much more interesting.
I'm totally with you. How are you feeling about the Avs now that they've kind of figured it out a little?
Great. I will be disappointed if they don't win the cup. Like I think that should be the expectation.
Isn't that kind of crazy? That we literally went from they're gonna possibly get swept to they should win the cup.
All you guys in your panic button with that team when they fell down 1-0.
What?
I was not in that camp. I did Denver Sports Tonight that night. 2 weeks ago tonight with Will. I'm like, they're fine. Just relax.
I don't know about that.
Don't worry.
I might have to go back and
they scored 6 goals. It was a lot of guys other than McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen, which is a good sign. You guys were just panicked. Now I'm panicked about the Nuggets because I think
we should be.
I think it's a bad matchup. I think Minnesota last year, I know the series only went 5 games, but they were the toughest out for the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
You could just tell that was a team on the rise, and it was like, oh, that just the way things just match up. It's not a good fit for Denver. I'm worried about it. I think they're going to win in 7. I think we're going to be watching Game 7 on Sunday, May 19th.
Stresses me out.
But it all. Yeah. Ask me 24 hours from now.
Okay.
I may have a different answer.
It was funny. I have a family group chat, and they were actually like, the T-Wolves are the better team. And I said, you're right. They're healthy.
Did you ever think Winnipeg was the better team? Even in game 1? No. It was just like, oh my God. The Avs could put a traffic cone in goal and it would be as good. That was it. But in terms of who was the better team and who played better, I think they outshot them like 42-21 or something like that. It was like the ice was tilted. The Avs couldn't stop anything. I never was worried about that series. I'm really worried about Nuggets Timberwolves.
Well, and they're not healthy. Like that has to play a factor in it. I'm sorry. KCP really was gingerly walking down the court in the first quarter. And you're like, if he can't go out there and guard Anthony Edwards, who's going to be able to stop him? And then you watch him go on to put up 43.
Yeah, no, that's why I think Michael Malone has to get creative. I really would put Aaron Gordon on him some tonight.
Why not?
Just the physicality standpoint, wear him down a little bit.
Yep.
Not that you want to be the bad boys Pistons of the 80s, but maybe a little bit.
Oh yeah, you do. Why not?
They had the Jordan rules. If Anthony Edwards is the next Michael Jordan,
you're the defending
implement
NBA
the Jordan
champs.
rules.
bully some people.
You know what DeAndre Jordan and Zeke Naji have combined? 12 fouls to give.
Yeah.
Put them to use.
True.
Put them to use.
True. Oh, DeAndre Jordan. I hope he gets a little bit of time. He's so funny.
I was
cracks me
talking
up.
about it with Mike and Matt this morning, Mike Evans and Matt Smith. He only played in 2 of the games last year.
Yep.
Game 1, which was a blowout,
Yep.
and then game 4 up there, which Denver lost.
Yep.
So it wasn't a piece that they used a year ago, but Michael Malone didn't change anything a year ago. And that's actually, I'm not knocking him. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
True.
They went 16-4. Why would you tinker? Most coaches would not be able to resist the temptation of, like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
So kudos to him for not doing it. He has to make some adjustments tonight. Has to.
It just makes me think of Jared Bednar after the game 5 win or whatever. And he was like, people always talk about coaches make so many changes. And he's like, you really don't. Like, you just have a team and you know what your identity is, and then you go from there. So we'll see what Michael Malone does with the identity tonight. Jamal Murray has to start a lot hotter. Hopefully MPJ gets some more baskets, but we got game 2 tonight. I will be down there at Ball Arena. Make sure you guys tune in. We'll be doing all of our post-game wrap-up and stuff, and hopefully we're talking about a Nuggets win. If you are watching us on YouTube, you have 4 more days to enter in to coming out with myself, James, entire Denver sports crew, Will, Jake, Andrew Mason, Cecil Lammy, and then you can also go watch The Drive with Philip Lindsay and Zach By, plus Gets Brothers Barbecue for lunch. So plenty of good stuff. But we'll see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we're talking about a Nuggets win. Fingers crossed, everybody. Bye.